Hey everybody, I figure I'll get a little video together here to show you guys how I ended up doing my mushroom. Mushroom I thought was going to be a very simple thing or so, and it turned out to be very challenging because I wanted to have the where the mushroom top, I wanted it hollow underneath it, so I wanted the curvature under there. So what I ended up doing is, so I'll pull this out of here. I got this piece by piece. So my obviously I had my clay mushroom that I made or so with its undercut underneath the bottom here. So I decided to make the rubber part, the latex, is one piece with a seam down either side. So what it's got is the ability to pull it out and then stretch it over. It's a tight stretch. What I did do when I did the latex, I didn't put any cheesecloth or anything like that because I don't generally do that anymore. But I did use a little piece around these edges, so when you pull on this, it can't tear through the rubber. It gives you a little bit of rip stop in a sense to protect the rubber. Basically, what I've done then is when the latex was done and pulled from the or not pulled, but it's still in the mold, I flipped it upside down, and because of the curvature underneath here, so I'm hoping you guys are seeing this, I don't have any great way to hold the camera, I built a plug on either side of this. Now the plugs I made out of plaster. I decided this was something new to me or so, thanks for some great help from Web or so and some instructions or so, who loves doing the plaster, and it is by far a lot cleaner, easier way to do these or so. So what I did is I made plaster plugs. I used the cloth and basically the plaster cast, and made the plugs so these fit. Let me make sure I'm showing you the right side here. These fit in like this. So then I ran into the dilemma of how this was going to align, because you can't put this in, flip it upside down, slide it in the mold, put the sides on it. It became too difficult. So what I decided to do is I drilled a hole into it and I embedded a bolt down in the bottom so I can actually put a nut from the outside. So when this goes on here, I actually put it into the mother mold first, and then I have a bolt, to flip this around here, a bolt on the other side that I tighten up. I just tighten this up by hand. I don't tighten it up tight in any way. I just want to make sure it's holding the inside piece in place. So basically it just holds it in line. It keeps it a little bit loose. I probably could have got away with not actually having the plug in this, but it would have been a really, really risky thing to make yourself for it to come out. This way I know it's going to come out, and I'm able to, you know, it's a safety net or so to make sure it was able to be removed. So if I do get one that the cement swells a little bit or is a tighter fit, I can always undo the bolt and it'll pull out if need be. What I'm going to do, this is just plaster right now, actually later on today or so, I'm actually going to brush on some resin over top of this to make it waterproof, a little bit more waterproof, a little bit more durable. It'll be a very thin coat. I'll be careful to do these all separate so this doesn't get glued in place, obviously. Then when I poured the first one or so, I ended up with, what I figured is, I figured the seam itself would allow enough air to expand or escape through it or so, and I wouldn't need the, from the edge of the mushroom cap, that I wouldn't have voids underneath or so, and it turns out that was wrong or so, and I still ended up with a big flat spot on the one side. So what I ended up doing, because when I looked at it the other way around, I thought this was going to be the low spot, and it turned out to be on the other sides at the edges that were the low spot. So when the rubber was only a couple of days old or so, I took my soldering iron, melted a hole through the rubber where I wanted a vent, and then I needed some tubing in a sense. So what I did is I made a latex tube. I took a piece of plastic tubing or so, latexed over top of that a couple of coats, probably 5 or 6 coats of the FMB, the thicker stuff from Sculpture Supply Canada, and I peeled that off and I slid it into the hole that I melted the hole into the rubber here, and then I put more latex around it. It seems to be holding up perfectly fine. That's probably because it was in the early days I was able to do that. I don't know if I could do that after, you know, weeks or a month or whatever, so if the latex would be too cured to allow that. But it gave me 2 little spigots, and I did one on either side. Now everything's marked. I got the 3 little dashes matched up, the 3 little dashes, so I know which side things go into. Getting this in here, so because of that afterthought, is a bit miserable. Like I said, this was sort of a major learning curve. Doing that undercut or so on the mushroom, it looks really nice in the finished product, but it comes with a price. hassle comes along. So then you line up the rubber so it comes through. Now that time was fluke luck that they went through that easy, because I usually don't get them in that easily. I'm usually struggling to do it. And then the other half goes onto it the same way. Now usually I put the other half on first, because the other half is actually bolted to base for vibrating. What I've done is I've got another plug on this side or so, same system or so with the bolt. So basically, I'll pull this back out here so you can put this on easily to show you. Basically what happens is it slides onto there, so it gets a bolt through the bottom here, a couple of bolts around the bottom to hold it together, so, and you fill it and shake away or so, and that's basically for doing the mushrooms. Coming off it demolds very easily, or so a simple pull and it slides right off. That's one really nice advantage I think with the plaster, is that the when you go to demold, if it's going to be a snug mold, because it's, even though it hardens and it's, you know, it's hard, it still has a little bit of sandability. So if you got a spot that's a little high or on the rubber, so it'll smoothen itself off a little bit, or you can sand it off if it's a little bit more than just the surface roughness that's causing it to stick, which is a huge advantage with fiberglass. Well, it's not so easy to, you get the power grinder out and make lots of toxic dust and the whole thing, and then you got to smooth it all up or so, and it's time, days to play with, where this is seconds to adjust to make sure it fits. So plaster has definitely got its advantages. I don't think it's anywhere near as durable as the fiberglass by any means, but it's a phenomenal way to go or so, and I'll be using that a lot more on other things. I don't know if this is in frame or so, because it's off to this side, probably not, but I did my mermaid mold is also done with the plaster, and a couple other small ones that I've done that way. But I figured that'll help with some of the explanation of how I did the mushroom and why I did all the curvatures, because the mushroom itself has that undercut in the bottom. Also, pulling the sides off, I kind of wish I probably would have made 3 sections to the mother mold or so, but after I turned down, it came off okay, so I was okay, because the rim on the mushroom, that the flange or whatever, where the mushroom opens from, whatever you want to call that, that also creates a little bit of a catch for the mother mold to catch on. But that's it for today. Have a good day.